Loving isn't just about winning someone over at the start, it's about winning them back every single day. Today we're going to tell you the story of a couple who are already grandparents, but who prove this can happen at any age. This story carries a powerful lesson that can save any relationship, whether you're married or just dating. Anyone who follows Richard and Emily knows the love between them has always been obvious: easy laughter, simple plans, promises to take care of each other. But over the years, something shifted. Words lost their warmth, gestures became calculated, and every conversation started carrying a tiny, invisible thorn, barely noticeable, but always there. You feel the distance settling in slowly, like dust no one sees coming. In the morning, she serves coffee and tries a light "good morning." He checks messages, replies curtly, puts his phone away. Emily feels an emptiness where there used to be closeness. Richard interprets her silence as judgment. They glance at each other for a moment, then look away, each retreating into their own fortress. It was just a quick scene, but another brick added to the wall. In the afternoon, a silly topic turns into a misunderstanding. Richard asks about the credit card bill. Emily hears a tone that wasn't there. She tries to explain, but her voice catches, and her sentence comes out short. He ends the conversation with an "okay" that doesn't mean peace, it means a cold truce. Dinner happens in one-word phrases. Dishes are washed, lights turned off, the issue tucked away in a corner of the heart. This channel is new and brings real-life lessons, like the story of Richard and Emily, who proved it's never too late to start over. Support our growth on YouTube, subscribe, leave a like, share, and don't miss our next videos. Before, every Friday meant soft music in the kitchen and an impromptu dance. It was their ritual. One day, Richard made an ill-timed joke, Emily responded with sarcasm. Each got a little hurt, and the next week, the ritual didn't come back. Pride disguises itself as reason, I was just defending myself. And the dance disappeared, along with the laughter. Emily tries a loving gesture, she brings home a sweet he likes. Richard, worried about spending, comments stiffly. She dims the sparkle in her eyes, saves the treat for later, and thinks that too much affection leaves you vulnerable. Next time, she avoids surprises. He notices the absence and concludes she stopped caring. Two different interpretations, same pain. Richard plans a weekend getaway, opens a website, calculates routes, almost invites her. Almost. He'd rather wait for a sign from her. Emily wants to be asked, but fears seeming needy. She says, "We'll see," and ends it. The invitation dies before it's even born. Silence starts keeping score on an invisible scoreboard. Whoever gives in first loses the game. You recognize this game. Instead of asking, each hints. Instead of embracing, each protects themselves. Conversations become short, as if saving words could prevent new wounds. Okay. All good. Later. Neutral terms that wear you out. The goodnight hug turns into a mechanical habit. The longing, which should bring them closer, becomes a test of control, outlasting the other. At work, Richard gets a compliment and thinks of sharing it. He keeps it to himself. At the store, Emily sees something he loves and almost buys it. She lets it go. They collect almosts, like someone gathering glass beads in a drawer, pretty to look at, useless to use. Each, almost, steals a piece of the couple they used to be. One Sunday, family calls to check in. Polite answers, pleasant tone, everything fine for the outside world. After the call, silence fills every corner again. Emily picks up her phone to write, "I missed you today," deletes it before sending. Richard rehearses, "Sorry about yesterday," changes it to, "Want some tea?" The apology becomes lukewarm tea. You realize pride doesn't arrive with fanfare. It settles into the details. In choosing to be right instead of staying together. In rushing to protect yourself instead of explaining. In believing that giving in makes you smaller, when deep down, staying rigid is what shrinks love. Emily and Richard keep living side by side, but on separate islands. There's still tenderness tucked away, and you catch sparks when one watches the other without being seen. But those sparks get locked in a safe with a password no one dares to type first. Time moves quietly forward, charging interest on every small emotional defeat. And in this restrained rhythm, their story leans toward a point where some choice will have to be made, a choice that could turn the page, which for now remains closed. You watch Lily's birthday, Emily and Richard's granddaughter, as if you were there. The room is full of voices, colorful presents, the smells of cake and joy. Kids run around, relatives swap stories, but between them, the couple stays distant. They're at the same party, yet separated by an invisible space. Richard sits at one end, Emily at the other. They talk to everyone, except each other. Her smile is subtle, his barely shows. To outsiders, they just seem tired. To those who know them, it's like seeing a chasm right across the table. During "Happy Birthday," everyone claps and Lily blows out the candles with excitement. Emily and Richard move a little closer, side by side for the first time that day. The contrast is striking, all around them, overflowing joy, inside them, a heavy silence. Richard thinks about making a comment on the decorations Emily helped prepare, but he swallows his words. Emily notices the gesture, feels the absence, and turns her gaze toward the cake. Pride turns the simple into the impossible. Then, just as the party seems to be going along without anything out of the ordinary, Lily, with her childlike spontaneity, blurts out the question no one expected, "Grandpa, why doesn't Grandma smile at you anymore?" Time stops. The room keeps moving, but to Richard, the words echo like a scream. He tries to smile, but his throat goes dry. Emily lowers her eyes, pretending she didn't hear, but inside, she feels a mix of shame and pain. The people around them don't grasp the gravity. To them, it's just childish curiosity. To the couple, it's as if someone has exposed their most intimate wound. Richard gets up to get water, not because he's thirsty, but to escape the feeling of being unmasked. In that moment, he realizes his granddaughter saw something he himself had been trying to hide, the distance that no longer fit under disguises. From afar, he sees Emily smiling at the guests, but it's a practiced smile, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. And inside him grows a discomfort he hadn't allowed himself to feel before. Maybe he was about to lose something much bigger than arguments or small victories. Emily, for her part, pretends everything's normal. She chats with her daughter, helps cut the cake, arranges the plates. But Lily's words replay in her mind like a stubborn echo. "Why doesn't Grandma smile at you anymore?" Each word feels like a silent accusation. She remembers when smiling at Richard used to come naturally, almost automatically, part of everyday life. Now, she has to force herself just to keep her face light in public. The realization hits her like a shock. Even her granddaughter's innocence noticed what they'd been avoiding admitting. When the party ends, each heads to their own side of the car. The ride back is marked by passing headlights and the absence of conversation. Richard drives in silence, Emily pretends to look out the window. But inside, the weight is immense. For the first time in a long while, their pride loses strength in the face of something greater, the honest gaze of a child revealing what had been hidden. And even though neither of them speaks, both know something has to change, because their granddaughter's words still echo, cutting deeper than any argument they've ever had. Emily is tidying up the bedroom one ordinary morning. Among folded clothes and stored memories, she opens a long-forgotten drawer. At the bottom, hidden beneath old papers, she finds a yellowed envelope in Richard's handwriting. She recognizes it immediately. It's a letter written in the early years of their marriage. Her hands tremble, her eyes grow moist, and a shiver runs down her skin. For a few seconds, she hesitates to open it, as if afraid to confront that version of herself who once believed in promises without limits. But curiosity wins out, and she slides the paper out. The words leap off the page as if written yesterday. I promise to stand by you through every fall, every victory. I promise not to let silence defeat us. I promise to remind you every day how much you are my home. Emily reads and rereads. Each sentence touches a forgotten place in her heart. She feels pierced by the memory of the man who once made her believe in eternal love, the same man who now shares the house but feels like a stranger. The letter has the power to return a piece of the past, but also to expose the pain of the present. She sits on the edge of the bed and, for the first time in a long while, lets the tears flow without trying to hold them back. These aren't just tears of sadness, but also of longing for the woman who believed nothing could ever pull them apart. Emily realizes she still carries that same hope inside her, only smothered by years of accumulated resentment. The letter stirs memories of happy moments, simple outings, knowing glances, inside jokes only the two of them understood. Memories that show love once existed fully, before being buried by pride. Meanwhile, in another room of the house, Richard flips through an old photo album, looking for pictures for a family gathering. He finds a photo of the two of them smiling together on their first Christmas, eyes shining with trust. As he holds the photo, he feels a tightness in his chest. For the first time in months, he silently admits he misses that connection. Pride keeps him from saying it aloud, but the memory confronts him. The images stir the same question echoing in Emily's mind with the letter: when did they stop being the couple who fought side by side against the world? Both, in separate rooms, are struck by the same shock. Memories that seemed locked away forever resurface to show that love didn't disappear, it was only covered up. Emily folds the letter carefully and keeps it in her lap, as if it were a treasure. Richard holds the photo longer than he should, like someone afraid to let it slip away. Neither of them speaks, but both feel it. Life is giving them signs at the same time, as if gently nudging them toward the same fate. And in that quiet moment, without them even realizing it, pride begins to crack. It doesn't shatter all at once, but it makes room for the memory that, beneath the pain, there's still love waiting to be awakened. Richard wakes before sunrise. The night was restless, filled with memories that refused to fade. He gets up, makes a simple cup of coffee, and sits motionless at the table, lost in thought. Minutes later, Emily appears, still silent, holding the letter she found the day before. They glance at each other briefly, but neither looks away. For the first time in a long while, there's no escape, no ready-made excuse, just the presence of the person who shared their entire life, and now must decide if it's still worth fighting for. Richard takes a deep breath, as if carrying the weight of years of swallowed words, and says only, "I miss you." 3 ordinary words, yet heavy with meaning beyond any speech. Emily, surprised, grips the letter tightly in her hands, and her teary eyes reveal she's been waiting to hear those words for a long time. She answers with the same simplicity, "I miss you too." Nothing else is needed. The silence that once poisoned them now, in this moment, becomes healing. Her gesture is spontaneous. She places the letter on the table, reaches out, and touches his hand. It's a timid touch, but powerful, enough to break down walls built over years. Richard holds her hand firmly, as if afraid to lose his last chance. The pride that once kept them apart dissolves in the face of the courage to admit how much they've missed each other. There's no winner, no loser. Just 2 weary hearts choosing to stop fighting and find each other again. The moment brings no applause, no witnesses, but it carries the grandeur of a life turning point. Emily feels the lightness of finally letting her guard down. Richard realizes that being vulnerable doesn't diminish his strength, it restores meaning to love. Together, they decide not to continue playing the game of distance. They don't need grand promises, just small daily gestures to rekindle what was always there. And that's when the truth reveals itself: pride separates, love unites. Their marriage, which seemed doomed, is reborn precisely when they accept their imperfections and acknowledge how much they need each other. For anyone watching this story, the lesson is clear: it's not about winning arguments, but choosing love over ego. Because in the end, the greatest victory is looking at the person beside you and having the courage to say, "I still want you here." Life as a couple is made of daily choices. Emily and Richard discovered that love doesn't vanish overnight, it hides behind small barriers built by pride. And what seemed like the end was actually just a pause, a waiting period until both had the courage to look at each other again with honesty. That's the transformative power of true love. It doesn't demand perfection, only presence, humility, and willingness to start over. Maybe as you hear this story, you think of someone who was once your safe harbor. Maybe there's a silence in your life that weighs heavier than words. What Emily and Richard's journey shows is that it's never too late to change, there's always room to tear down walls and build bridges. Pride tries to convince you that giving in is weakness, but the truth is the opposite: loving is an act of courage. When you choose to let go of conflict and choose connection instead, you realize life is too short to waste on resentment. Every hug could be the last, every word could be the one that saves a heart. And that awareness brings a deep sense of gratitude, as if you've been given an unexpected gift. The lesson is simple, but powerful: love is always stronger than pride. Emily and Richard proved it when they chose affection over silence. And you can carry this lesson into your own life. Choose to love more, forgive more, and cherish the person walking beside you. Because at the end of the journey, what truly remains isn't individual victories, but the joy of having someone to share the path with. And if this story touched you, remember, here we tell lessons that transform. Stay with us, because the next video might bring exactly the reflection you need to live with more lightness, courage, and love. After all, every story is an invitation to see life through new eyes. This channel is new and was created to inspire and show, through stories like Richard and Emily's. Subscribe, share, and stay with us on this journey.